Well, nice to have you back on, Magilla. You were in a different team last week. You in a group, a dream team with. Remind us again who was all with you. There was Millbilly, Jerice, yourself, Big Jeff, and Fleetside. But I think Fleetside had an issue with the sound. Is that right?
And we had who is it? Not Seeking Truth for Good. We had
Or was it Sappercop?
we had Sappercop. Yeah, Joris, I don't think was on that call.
Right.
And we had Finding Truth, or I can't think of her name, her handle.
Yeah.
But,
and how did it go? How did the how
Oh,
did the whole event go for you?
it was a great call. Everybody's very excited about the new evidence that came out, and we started out just sharing information. Everybody's been researching, trying to find out where the Sawinski lead goes.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I've actually got, I believe I've got footage here of your excitement at the tire tracks being found. So shall I just quickly share that with everybody?
Oh, absolutely.
There we go. That's Magilla's reaction to the tire tracks being found in the footage, I believe.
Yeah. So I sometimes I get a little exuberant.
Exactly. Yeah, you're allowed to. No, I mean, look, nobody's going to stop you.
Absolutely. Most people are very kind to me when they meet me in person.
Well, yes, for obvious reasons. You're very nice.
They talk about 800-pound gorillas, but I really don't weigh more than 390.
Good stuff. No, that's that is great fun, great footage. You were saying it's breakdancing, and somebody forgot to tell him that it should be on his back. And
yeah. Well, it's
somebody
it's
can tell him that. Yeah, somebody can tell him that, but it's certainly not me.
It's a little hard on your foot hands.
Yeah. So yes, the exciting stuff was the just everything. Would you like to share your thoughts on, well, basically, since Thomas Sawinski was unveiled by Kathleen Zellner as proof of who planted the RAV4?
Well, it would be the first time that one of the major suspects would be seen with a very incriminating way after Teresa's disappearance. So it would strongly indicate that Bobby is at least involved in the murder, and would definitely tend to exculpate Ryan's crew a bit, which is also important to consider.
Sure. I mean, the two obvious questions. He's there with we're told a 60-year-old. So who's in charge? Who's the accomplice? And what do you make of him being shirtless between 1 and 2 in the morning? It's not as if it's hot.
Yeah. So we've thought about that, and there's actually a shirt found in one of the John DeBurn barrels.
Right.
And it has cremate dust on it. So it's possible that either during the crime he got his shirt torn and covered with blood, or he used his shirt to carry perhaps cremains, wrapped in the shirt so they wouldn't spill everywhere. It's very hard to carry a large amount of dusty material in your hands.
Very true. Yeah.
So the other thing is I think there might be a third person involved. The report from Sawinski says that one was pushing from the driver's door and the other was pushing from the front passenger door. And those aren't really good places to push a car from. And the person at the driver's door would also be responsible for steering. So typically the best place to push from, like if there's two of you, one person steers and the other one pushes from the very back. And I think Millbilly or somebody, I didn't spot this first, but we do know we have these two big palm prints on that RAV4 tire cover. that would be positioned sort of 10 and 2 o'clock, which would be a good position to be pushing the car from. So it's possible that somebody, so if there were three of you, it would make sense to position yourself that way, one in the back and one at each of the front doors. And it's possible the person in the very back hid well enough that was never seen by Sawinski driving by.
Sure. I mean, we're right about it being somewhere between 1 and 2 in the morning is when
Well,
Sawinski is.
they talked him into that. His first statements. So there was some confusion. I think one of the talks on our marathon said that he only worked on Saturdays. I went and checked, and that wasn't true.
But
He worked every day, but on Saturdays he would do the delivery especially early.
right.
So the other days he would time it so his delivery was ending in time for him to go home, make breakfast for his kids, and take them to school.
Mm.
So for some reason he thought it was earlier in the morning. That's why he thinks it was Saturday. But in his earlier emails, he had said he wasn't sure what day it was. The Saturday date does not fit the other evidence well at all. It would mean that Ryan wasn't up to anything the night of the 4th and 5th, and that Pam Sturms did just come in and magically find the car. Those are very hard to believe. If it happens a few days earlier, or even one day earlier, it becomes much more believable.
Yes, I mean it's I suppose it's expecting a bit much of the guy to actually remember exactly what day it was. You know,
Right. He was actually encouraged to sort of deduce it from other information he did remember.
Mhm.
And that was more by the private eye than him. His original statement was he didn't remember.
Yep. And obviously people have pointed out, well, you know, why didn't he come forward sooner? But what more can you do other than report it to the sheriff's department, and the sheriff's department say, no, thank you, we've already got this sorted. And it must have been, you know, I mean, can you imagine anybody in Manitowoc, you know, having reported this to the police and being told by the police, you know, no, we're fine. Who can you turn to then go take this case further? And would you want to antagonize the sheriff's department, such as Manitowoc?
Okay, so he did actually report it 3 times. So
Wow.
the first time he reported it was on the 5th, the day they're finding the RAV4.
Mm-hmm.
And he's calling in. I don't think he's calling in before the RAV4 is found.
Right.
What he does is he sees all this news about the RAV4 found. Then he's calling the police station in the middle of the uproar after the finding of the RAV4. So it's not surprising that the police are distracted. They never get back to him. That's very similar to the story we get for Wilmer Siebert,
Mm-hmm.
where he had his daughter who could actually corroborate that all this happened, that he called and tried to make contact, and really nobody paid attention to him.
Sure.
And then the second time he tries to contact them is when Making a Murder Season 1 comes out, and he tries to contact the defense lawyers.
Yeah.
And we have that email in the evidence chain that Zellner submitted. And there he does not know what day it was, but he explains the story with pretty consistent to the statement. The statement really combines information from all of his contacts. He doesn't get anywhere at that point. So Zellner wasn't even really public when season 1 ended.
Yes.
And people were contacting Buting and Strang, and they had no real money to follow it up. And I don't think they were all that interested in getting back involved in it in a legal sense.
Sure. And I think there was also some mention of Jerry Buting having changed internet servers and lost quite a lot of emails as a result of that.
It's possible. I don't remember seeing. I think they showed the address that his email was addressed to, but I don't remember if it was consistent with Jerry's current email. It might have been Jerry. I think Jerry has his firm has its own domain now.
Yeah.
So he might have shifted over from having, a Gmail or something to his own domain. and didn't know how to transfer the archived emails.
Yep.
That would make sense. And then the third time was after Making a Murder season 2, and his email is right to the Zellner hotline, Stephen Avery Lawyers
Yep.
at gmail.com. So he did make 3 contacts. He made one. So contacting on the 5th, the day the car is found, it's just it's very understandable that the police were distracted. But telling him they already have their man and don't worry about it is, fairly incompetent.
Yeah.
It was the Manitowoc Sheriff's Office he contacted, not the Calumet. So
I know that's bizarre, isn't it? Because if it was something that they were going to want to sort of follow up on, they would have redirected him. Or had Calumet actually taken over that case by then?
yeah, I mean, it's very well. Calumet had it on the 3rd. So
Well, okay then, yeah,
right, yeah,
because Mark Rohr makes that decision straight away that there's not going to be any involvement by Manitowoc.
Well, I mean, Calumet has the lead. I think the idea that Manitowoc was going to play a secondary role doesn't come in until Kratz bears his ugly head. But so it's all very believable, but it's sloppy by the Manitowoc Sheriff's Office. And it's probable that the woman manning the phones, that I'm not sure he said it was a woman. I seem to remember it, that she was very overloaded that day just because of all the fuss and commotion about the RAV4 being found.
Yep. But obviously what must have really piqued your interest was the tire tracks being seen that day in the grass, corresponding to where Thomas Sawinski says that he had to swerve.
Well, so a couple things happened. The first thing was a lot of people were saying there was no ditch there, because he said in his affidavit that he was going into a ditch to avoid letting them stop him.
Yep.
And there are, like, if you go to Google Earth, it tends to flatten it out and make it look like it's just grass, but there really is a drainage ditch, part of the stormwater system. So, and it's fairly deep, and it actually so Millbilly came back and said it has a V bottom in it. So driving across it is no easy chore. With a V bottom, you can easily slam the front of your car into the opposite bank. If you take it at a narrow angle, you could have the side of your car fall onto the opposite bank, or you could just get stuck, which is different if you have all-wheel drive. But if you only have 1 or 2 drive wheels, like some road cars, it's real easy to get stuck in something like that.
Yeah, I must admit, I get the impression that he couldn't have been going that fast if he's shouting out "Paperboy, got to go."
But going too slow is dangerous. I don't know if you've ever mowed the side of a hill, but you go slow and you fall on your side. You maintain some momentum, and
yes. but those tracks that we see in the footage, it's just totally consistent, I suppose, with the.
Well, it seems like the tracks go pretty far. He's going pretty far off the road. I'm not sure it's totally consistent with his statement, but he did say he drove into the ditch to avoid them. He didn't say I drove on the shoulder.
No, he did mention going into the ditch, and at first I thought, well, maybe he's just sort of swerved slightly so that maybe one side of the vehicle, that the tires are on the grass, and the others are on the road. But clearly he's had to make quite a
right. So it is a big. The tracks are showing, you're driving pretty far on the other side of the ditch and then cutting back. So I'm not sure it's totally consistent. But even if those aren't his tracks, the fact there's a ditch there supports his statement, and it's possible his tracks were less severe, and those tracks may be indicative of something else. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we don't have any footage of the car leaving the road and going into the ditch, but
no, but I've been looking, and there, there's evidence developed at Michael's materials quarry right across the ways there, and it's possible the RAV4 was hidden there for a while, and they got spooked by the roadkill deer event,
right.
and that's why they wanted to move it, because it was so close to being found then.
Mm.
And we do have some evidence that was found in that Michael's quarry that a bunch of people are helping me go through. Joras and Avery Wave was helping me. So that becomes much more possible that something happened over in Michael's quarry that didn't get found out to the extent of its importance. So if they're actually over there at Michael's quarry, they might have brought the RAV4 across that ditch onto Avery Road rather than risking taking it out to Highway 147.
Okay. Now, obviously, researching the case and looking at these loose tracks and these tire tracks, and the as yet unidentified tire track with the strange edge. I realized that you're particularly keen on these sort of things, but I would just like to ask you a little bit of your thoughts about the motion from Kathleen, then the state's response, then Kathleen's response, and then the state response to that, and then Kathleen responds to that. Any thoughts that you'd like to share?
Well, I really thought when the submission came in, my feeling when I saw Sawinski's statement was, I don't know about this. And I think that's probably what the state's was too.
Yep.
I did think Zellner would have done a lot of background before she submitted this.
Yeah.
If it does turn out to be superfluous and easily disproved, it makes her case look very bad.
Mm-hmm.
So I was pretty sure she had done her homework.
Yeah.
But at first I was like, a man with a 10-inch beard and somebody without a shirt in 50-degree weather, and we really didn't, and the date seemed wrong, and it did seem pretty unlikely. But sometimes when parts of a story seem like the last thing you'd want to say,
mm-hmm.
that's sort of making it believable, because why is he with an old man? Why doesn't he have his shirt on? If you're going to make this thing up,
mm-hmm.
those aren't the types of details you just stick in there.
Exactly. Yeah. They seem too bizarre, don't they? I mean, obviously, getting back to our old fella with the long beard. I've suggested to most people that he is clearly the one that's running the show. 18-year-old Bobby Dassey wouldn't be the
I don't
the
think
main
so.
perpetrator.
What immediately came to my mind is he's helping them clean up.
Yeah.
If he's 60 years old, I would hope he's not out there attacking 25-year-old girls or something. But if he has blood in the game, like one of the people involved is a relative of his, I think he's helping clean up. I think it almost takes a relative to want to get somebody involved. It's hard to believe that you'd risk that much without it being a relative.
Yep.
Now, Sapper Cop had some interesting ideas on that. He says, he just doesn't believe the police would be so bold planting evidence. And the other point he made was destroying evidence, because there's just a tremendous amount of, blocking access to evidence and destroying it. He doesn't believe the police would do that unless they somehow knew who the killer was. And either they thought they were, providing evidence that would help convict the killer. So they knew it was Stephen, but they didn't have evidence that was admissible. Or they were protecting one of their own, was sort of the idea he had. So if we go back to the hit and run case, There, the Manitowoc Sheriff's Office was protecting one of their own.
Yeah.
One of their own had committed the crime, and all of a sudden, like, they're picking up evidence and just throwing it in their trunk
Yeah.
and destroying it. Which is very bold, but they're protecting their own. So I thought when Sapper Cop said that, it was very very smart. Stuck with me, and so it's possible who did this was somebody attached to Manitowoc. Maybe not that they did it to just get out of the $36 million, but after they did, it was one of their own, and they were bold to try to protect him.
Yes, I think the 36 million can sometimes be overstated. First of all, it was never likely to be 36 million. It was
that was the defense starting position.
Yeah. And I'm sure that had the depositions gone through, Steve would have been looking to collect somewhere between 3 and 5 million. They would have.
But one of the things that came up through all this, so the other thing we were doing was going through the 3 phone numbers that Bobby had frequently called.
Yep.
There was a report the week before and the week after the incident. And one of the numbers comes back to a landline to the name Dvorak.
Mm-hmm.
And that landline has 2 people living at it. A girl that went to school with Bobby, and maybe a girlfriend of his. And then it has a 1-year-old older brother,
right,
who might be a friend of Bobby's. And they're living in the same location. And there's 26 calls between them and Bobby in the interval a week before and a week after.
Mm.
So this is like an uninvestigated area, or if it's investigated, it's buried.
Yes.
And that's something I found very interesting. So we've been trying to find out so Dvorak, that name actually has ties back to the police department.
Yeah, indeed.
It is Deputy David and Deputy Judith Dvorak.
Yep.
And Judith, of course, gave a very famous deposition. I don't know if you remember it, but
I do indeed, yes.
She was the one that was telling everybody about Stephen burning cats and definitely could rape people, and that he chained his child up in his front yard, and that's how he babysat him. Yeah. And things like this. And she had told somebody named Deb Strauss about it, who had already given a deposition. So she really got taken through the ringer in her deposition, where she kept trying to minimize and deny that she had said these things to the other woman, but it was pretty clear it had happened.
Yes. She talks about in one statement, it's to do with the fact that Stephen Avery, he's so dirty, we have to hose him down or something, And
we have to clean ourselves after he leaves.
Yeah, and then famously she says, that's I wouldn't have written that. That's not my kind of verbiage. So she's always known as Judy the Verbiage, isn't she?
Right. She would have said it much more. Well, she's implying politely, but it might have been much worse. Who knows? So she doesn't seem to tie with these 2 possible contacts of Bobby's, but if she does, it starts getting to be that scenario where somebody involved is one of the Manitowoc Sheriff's Office own people that they're trying to protect.
Yes, indeed.
And I had been thinking it was more likely it was the brother, because I just didn't see a girl getting involved in this whole mess. But some of the women I'm working with say that I'm being a little bit naive.
Yeah.
And I'll admit I tend to think women are less likely of doing this types of stuff, but
I know you underestimate them at your peril.
Well, I don't. In my experience, women have been pretty amazingly good.
Yeah.
But I understand that I haven't experienced that large a percentage of women.
Yeah. No, I mean, at the bottom line, of course, is that, as you say, in a sheriff's department, everybody has, they've got this sort of almost like this pledge of allegiance that everybody covers up and protects everybody. You've got the Ricky Hochstetler case. You've also got Deborah Kakach coming out to a road traffic accident where, the sheriff's officer that got there ran over the person that had already been ran over, bizarrely, and then was being told, well, in your report you won't mention anything about the second, the police running over him. And she's like, well, no, if the evidence shows that it was the second collision that killed him, that's what's going in the report. And that was the reason why obviously Deborah Kakach was always considered to be against,
Yep, untrustworthy. Yep.
yeah, not towing the party line. And again, with your crystal ball, what would you anticipate the Court of Appeals doing with this, Thomas?
Well,
Salinsky?
I think what happened with the filings was the state reacted emotionally to the original filing.
Yeah.
And I think they opened the door for her to present the background investigation,
Mm-hmm.
which she actually states in one of her rebuttals that they weren't required to do, and that it would be introducing new evidence, so it was sort of inappropriate to explain it. The evidence should have been argued, of course. She's asking for a remand to be able to argue this evidence. So arguing the evidence to the Court of Appeals would have been inappropriate, but the state walks in and then falls into like, oh, well, they opened the door for her to actually provide evidence.
Yep.
And they really end up stinking. And then they start taking some minor technicality that she should have asked the court's leave before filing. And then she argued pretty effectively that the case that they were basing that statement on, one, was not even, they didn't think it was appropriate in this context. And then the second thing was, she had responded to their filings 3 times before without them complaining.
Exactly.
And the third thing was, she said, just to be cautious, I'd like to ask your leave now and ask you if I can refile if my previous filing is going to be denied. And then, of course, that leaves the state hopefully speechless, but they may come back again.
Yeah. Yeah.
The problem with the Court of Appeals is that they're just getting delayed and delayed. And I don't think Zellner wanted to delay. I just think she thought this evidence was so important that she had to get it into the ruling. So if they get their evidentiary hearing, it can be part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And hopefully we won't have to wait too long before the Court of Appeals gives a decision on this, and hopefully remands it back and stipulates that there has to be an evidentiary hearing.
Yeah, the sad thing is that Josh Call hasn't been in office that long, and now he's taken several very stubborn stands against really letting any sort of real open hearing on this case occur. And so just like the previous AG, this one's turning out to want to continue to hide the state's mistakes.
Absolutely. Well, because it sort of reflects on his mother, doesn't it?
Well, it's like the question is it inevitably going to come out? Is it going to get publicity again? Maybe we have to get somebody to produce Making a Murderer 3, even if the original filmmakers don't want to, because we are losing some momentum. The pandemic didn't help us, and I think when Making a Murderer 2 came out, we sort of hit a peak.
Mm-hmm.
And they managed to been able to just stall us down to losing public interest, but they really haven't answered any of the new evidence, and they act like they don't need to. It's like it was inappropriate to introduce new evidence.
Yeah, I must admit the as you say, this the interest in the in Making a Murderer 2, it did peak quite a bit, but from what some of the Facebook groups are finding, that the pandemic has caused more people to sit down and watch Making a Murderer. So hopefully the momentum will be maintained, and
Well, this break in the case is generating interest, and if
it
there's
is,
any
yeah.
follow-on breaks,
Yes, yeah. It just yeah. Um, keeps the interest going. Well, Magilla, it's been absolutely fantastic to have you on and have a chat with you. And so I'm going to schedule this for probably for later on this evening, your time, Wisconsin time. And I look forward to having you back on again. Maybe we can round up the posse with Jerice, and even I'm hoping at some point to have Fleetside.
yeah, once he
Sound,
gets life
yeah.
working again.
He actually, in fairness, he did say to me that there's a music software called Cubase that he had installed, and apparently that had sort of taken control of mic and speakers and all that kind of stuff. And so he was having to resolve the issue because of the Cubase. It's a music writing software, like basically a sound recording studio,
Yeah.
which is very powerful. I think
In his honor, I picked up one line from him that I like to repeat is it's obvious that the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Office was working on an agenda.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
so that agenda, we want to find the people who are supporting that agenda.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
And yeah, I like Fleetside, so I'd love to be on with him again.
Yep. Well,
When he can talk.
yeah, we'll get that set up, and yourself and Jerice, that'd be great. So I'm going to say cheerio. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon and the evening, and we'll speak to you soon.
Cheerio.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye bye.